I'm the Hendrix Murphy Writer-in-Residence, and I'd like to welcome you to this evening with John Edgar Wideman. I'd like to begin by thanking the Hendrix Murphy Foundation programs in literature and language for sponsoring this event, and to Shinyi Pai, Henrietta Vonneman, Sarah Engler-Young, Lauren Daly, and Daniel Williams for all their assistance in making this program happen. Many thanks to my fellow program coordinators, Alice Hines and Alex Vernon, and the many who are involved in increasing the volume. Bobby, I am as funny as you, just not as quickly. After the reading, there'll be a Q&A, and after the Q&A, I would hope that you would take a moment to fill out a comment card, and after you fill out the comment card, there'll be a reception and book signing in Mills, which is the building just to our north here. And also, please, if you haven't already, silence your phones. Our guest tonight is the writer John Edgar Wideman. While Weidman has won more awards than I have time to list, I would like to name one that's not on your program because he won it recently. And that award is the 2011 Lifetime Achievement winner of the Ennis Wolf Book Award, which recognizes works that have made important contributions to understanding racism and appreciating diversity. Past winners include such luminaries as August Wilson, Lucille Clifton, and Ernest Gaines. Weidman has been publishing fiction for nearly half a century, which is more than twice as long as many of you here have been alive. His book-length works include 13 novels, 6 collections of short fiction, and 2 memoirs. The Hendrix Murphy Foundation's theme this year is crime. And I think that this year's Murphy programming will not so much teach us about crime as it will shine light on social structures that are criminal. John Weidman writes what I like to think of as systems novels. And by a system novel, I mean a work that investigates and meditates on the larger social concerns, larger social systems that dictate our lives, and that all too often tragically separate, imprison, and enslave. One of Mr. Weidman's primary subjects has been the criminal justice system and how it affects African Americans. His work is quick to remind us that many African American people came here as prisoners, and that a large percentage of them remain prisoners. His work investigates what this means on a personal and a social level. Weidman's subject matter is deepened, complicated, and complemented by his writing style. He has an incredible ear for dialect and idiom, and the structures of his books are as inventive as they are aggressive. As one of my students recently said about Philadelphia Fire, it felt like the book had teeth. Every time I picked it up, I was bit. Weidman's use of multiple voices, a polyphonic approach, is unrivaled in contemporary fiction. And if you think I'm exaggerating, pick up a copy of his most recent book, Briefs. In this collection of 100 micro-stories, you will hear Weidman's voice, yes, but you will also hear a chorus of other voices, some funny, some sad, some downright scary. When I read Weidman's work, I'm reminded that identity is fluid, multiple. It too is polyphonic. In Philadelphia Fire, a question is posed. How does it feel to be inhabited by more than oneself? The answer, I think, if we look honestly and closely, it's always changing. Please join me in welcoming John Edgar Wideman.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, Ty, and thank you all for coming out. I said earlier today to a group of Hendrix students that I would do what I do whether anybody paid any attention or not. But it's certainly easier and more fun when people do pay attention. I'm stuck with writing. I've been doing it, at least 2 or 3 days now, and I seem to like it an awful lot, so I'm probably not going to stop. They're going to have to lead me out of the pasture or make the pasture disappear. I'm going to continue to do what I do, good news or bad news, for the rest of you. Writing to me is a way of being in the world. It's a way of being in the world. Basketball for me for a long time was a way of being in the world. It's how I conceptualized myself, what released me, what allowed me to grow and think. So that one is sort of physical, one is sort of mental, if you want to categorize them, but they really work together. I have never been in Arkansas before. It's been a very pleasant day. The weather's been great. Food's been good, good company, and I'm very grateful to the teachers at Hendrix, first, for deciding to use my work in their courses. And I'm also grateful to the students I've met who seem to be reading it and paying attention, so thank you. Tonight I'm going to do something that I really enjoy doing, and that is take some chances. I don't know you, you don't know me. I have these pages here in front of me, only 9 of them, so at worst you're not going to have to sit too long. But all I want you to do is try to listen, and listen with an open mind and see what happens. Maybe there's some part here or there that will be fun, maybe not. But I'd like to dedicate this piece to 2 different groups, to teachers here at Hendrix and teachers in general. How many out there are teachers of one sort or another? I believe you're the high school, college, kindergarten. I believe you're the heroes right now of this culture. The culture is kind of limping along. Threatening to implode. All of us are complaining about values and politics and the way things seem to be coming apart. And it's the teachers who are on the front line, meeting young people, trying to give them some sort of hope and some sort of direction, some sort of information which is going to allow them to survive in this world. So I want to dedicate what I'm doing to teachers. I also want to dedicate it to the people who are centered right now, focused right now in New York City. The folks who are, at this point, not exactly sure about what they're doing, where it should go, what it should be called, but are absolutely certain that there's something drastically wrong with our society, and that too many of our resources, too much of our wealth, too much of our direction is being funneled towards the top and landing in a very few hands, and that the rest of us are suffering because of that. And that the rest of us have been conditioned in such a way that we don't recognize what's happening to us, or we're satisfied with bread and circuses that divert us. Whatever it is, whatever's keeping us placid and whatever does keep us placid, and allow things to happen to us. These people who are camping out and campaigning and carrying around posters and trying to start a mass movement, they know something's wrong and they want to change it. And I want to dedicate this reading to them. Paul Muldoon is a very excellent poet, unusual poet. I recommend him. He's of Irish ancestry. I met him at UMass a number of years ago and had fun talking with him and became a little bit familiar with his poetry. And I want to quote him to put what I'm going to read in context. And what I'm going to read to you is a rough draft. That is, this is not a published work. It's not a finished work. It's something that I'm doing right now. And I feel comfortable about that because I've met many writers today and talked to them about their work, and they've asked me questions. And I feel that all of us who try to do something with an expressive art, whether it's writing, dancing, playing basketball, raising our children, cooking, whatever that expressive art happens to be, we share taking risks, taking chances. And we are absolutely peers in that sense. So even though I published a lot of books, when I start a work, I start at the same place I started the first time I tried to write a paragraph or a sentence or a story. And that's the level that I want to feel myself always at. Not because I want to feel like I'm young or that the world's in front of me, but because that's the truth. We start from the beginning every time. So that's my excuse for sharing with you a story, which I think is pretty close to right. But I'd be happy to hear any comments you have about it. And I mean that, positive, negative. But for me, this is much more fun than reading something that's already done and finished and out there in the world. Then it's too late. It may be too late for this also, but I'm going to share it. So Paul Muldoon. How many have seen the movie Precious? Good. Then you'll know what the hell I'm talking about, a little bit anyway. Here's Paul Muldoon, a poet I'm recommending to you, Muldoon. This is what he has to say. As a matter of fact, he was somewhere like I am tonight, giving a reading, and people started to heckle him. And somebody in the audience said, "That's not poetry you're reading. Don't understand a damn thing you're saying. I don't know, that's not poetry." And Paul drew up and had to answer them. He chose to answer them. He just didn't ignore what was being said. And one of the things he said is that what he thinks of as poetry, what he thinks of as in writing, and what he admires, poetry that puts us into a difficult situation and makes us think again about the way things are. Poetry that puts us into a difficult situation and makes us think again about the way things are. In that spirit, I'm going to read a story at this point I'm calling Precious Love. One more comment. When the turbulence began, what is now being called the Arab Spring, the revolutions in Egypt and Tripoli and Libya, which interestingly enough could also have been called the African Spring, but it wasn't. We won't even go there. We won't deal with that right here tonight. But when I became aware of what was going on, and then became aware of how interested my fellow countrymen were in that situation, in those revolutions, in the chances that those people were taking, in the courage of those people, I think there was more than just kind of news-hungry appetite that generated our interest. I think there was a real vicarious identification of the root, the grassroots of this country. Why are those people, those Arabs, those Africans, those Muslims, those faraway folks, why are they taking the chances they are taking? What gets them into the streets? And I think we had a kind of, as a country, as a nation, as a people, I think we were envious. I think at some deep level, we knew there was lots of things wrong with our country and the way we live. And we knew about inequality, and we knew about prisons, and we knew about the fight against terror, and we knew about our wars. And so something deep was touched. Why are we passive? Why aren't we in the streets? And I think that question never went away. And the group I mentioned that's in New York now, in the streets, is one result of that. And I hope many more situations and returns to the street will follow. This is anyway my imagining of one such revolt, revolution, or just simply taking it to the streets. Precious love, what would it take to get us to the streets? What finally brought us into the streets, you could say, was precious. Or you could say the election of a man of our color to the White House. Or say greedy bankers and no jobs. Or say revolutions overturning dictators in Tunisia and Egypt and Libya. Or say all the young colored men and women jammed up in the slam. Or say the earthquake in Haiti. Or the yellow peril of China. Or women everywhere still being swatted and squashed like flies. Or wars in Iraq and Afghanistan. Or no room, too much misery in the ghettos where we're stuck living with no goddamn place else to go. Or just say, precious, precious, brought us out here in the streets. And you wouldn't be very far from wrong. Sad watching Precious burn. Warning label popped up on the TV screen, but we couldn't turn our eyes away. So much of Precious, big and black as the girl was, she's a long time burning. And that was sad too. How long, how sad. We watched over and over Precious slop herself, then pour a puddle of gasoline on the pavement and plop her big butt down Buddha style in it. Watched over and over again, like we watched the planes slam into the tower. Waited each time for the match, the whoosh, when the cone of flame engulfed her, and fiery tongues lapping and whipping, even though we knew the sad end already. Her super-sized lump of dark flesh, nothing but a teensy pile of crisp, smoldering ashes at the end. Black ass to black ash to invisible dust, blown away first strong breeze. Make you sneeze if you're too close, watch too long. Make your eyes water. Where did Precious get the idea to die like that? Didn't the poor girl have nobody to talk to? Nobody watching Precious back? No Facebook friends? No nice teachers? No congressperson? Nobody who cared even a little bit? No one to say, that's a damn fool idea, girl. What good do you think burning up yourself will accomplish? Why didn't a kind person take the child by her chubby hand, get her a Big Mac and a double chocolate shake, buy her a pretty pink dress with ruffles, treat her to the beauty parlor, and deep fry those sorry naps? And while her head's sweating under the hot comb, Mama maybe pat her shoulders, say, now, baby, beauty must suffer, baby. Don't you cry now. Everything gonna be all right. Undress Precious, wrap her shiny new hair in a silk bandana and tuck her in and coo, coo, coo like her daddy do. Daddy's sweet baby cakes, good. Give me some of that good sugar, sweet baby. Of course, you've got to be careful what you say to Precious. She's such a big old gal, you don't want to piss her off. Precious subject to haul off, knock you bow-legged and cross-eyed like her mama do her. like Precious gonna do her cute little babies, except they her sisters and brothers too, by her daddy. And liable to be born cross-eyed and bow-legged, no need ever for Precious to be correcting them, because poor things never gonna have enough good sense to misbehave. It's Precious brought us out here, piling into the streets, and we fit to be tied. Time for a change, way past time, if truth be told. Even if change starts with nothing more than biting the hand that claims to feed us, that the hand that fed Precious. Whole bunch of us mad woogies, buckets full filling up the streets, stopping traffic, breaking windows, turning cars over, waving torches and lynch ropes, hollering and screaming for blood or peace or love or something, whatever it is we don't have, but know damned well we ain't supposed to get. Burn, baby, burn. Whole lot of us out here gonna burn too. We waited too long, is what I'm thinking. They ready now, licking they chops. Poor Precious gone. Precious ain't coming back to save us. Our ranks thinning, freedom fever cooling as the choppers spray us with nerve gas and bullets, rat-tat-tat, machine guns in old black and white gangster movies mowing people down. Can't see shit out here. Just smoke, just sirens and glass breaking, niggers running, hollering, tear gas thick as molasses, as if we need more tears, as if we ain't been crying our eyes out 24/7 since we got kidnapped and dumped in this wilderness. Rivers of tears, dry heaved ghost tears after wet tears gone. Around the corner, the air cleaner, and I see rivers of blood. Walls of fire from flamethrowers strapped like dildos up under the choppers' pot bellies. Ski mask special forces, helmeted SWAT teams riding tanks and armored personnel carriers who eat the flowers we offer to pacify the rotten brothers. Half the ones whose color I could make out, my color. So it hurts even worse when they run us down. Grind our colored bodies to brown oatmeal, running alongside bright blood running in the gutters. I'm down to my last 2 paving stones, saving one to go upside my own head in case we lose. No way I'm going back. No, no, no. Rather die like a dog out here in the street than let them drag me back. Bingo! Whacked me one of the peacekeepers, no doubt about it. Big gorilla Goliath, and I'm little David. My stone got up under his blue helmet's visor, split his blue nose, blacked both his blue eyes, drew blue blood. Gotcha. No more blue balls from staring at our women, sucker. You won't be stealing people's blues no more. Splat. Wasted him like in a cartoon. Flung my kung fu voodoo missile just like I used to fling frisbees in the 60s, back and forth across green university lawns. And today, with progress such as it is, maybe the president's kids and nice wife got slick, iridescent frisbees and got time to play with them, a big lawn to play on. Hope they do anyway. Hope they got every damn thing in the whole wide world they desire. Somebody deserves everything, don't they? Might as well be somebody our color, right? Because as far as the rest of us out here concerned, we ain't got shit, got nothing. And no damned body deserves nothing. That's right, Precious. You gone, princess. But you the reason we out here, girl. What they did to you, and then what you did to yourself. Exactly why are we out here, dear heart? Tearing up the street. Flashback. Imagine Precious, all 16-year-old, 250 pounds plus, Nat King Cole colored bulk of her, watching Precious, the movie of her life. In the darkness of the theater, what would real Precious see on the screen? What would she make of the movie's plot? A very heavy, dark, teenage girl, unloved by her mother, two babies by her father, attempts to better her prospects by learning to read and write in an alternative school. A story based on a novel by a poet, Sapphire. How big a chance of success would Precious give the girl in the movie? Is my Precious wolfing down popcorn and candy, sucking up rivers of soda through a straw? How would she be dressed? Who's at home babysitting her two very young kids? If the theater Magic Johnson's in Harlem, not the Uniplex near Union Square, where I saw the movie, would Precious feel comfortable surrounded by an audience? Like spectators at the old-time Apollo on 125th Street, folks who punctuated performances with loud signifying jeers, sighs, hollers, amens. Would a colored crowd's responses be in sync with Precious' feelings as she watches? Imagine an audience composed solely of big, black, poor teenage mothers. If Precious desired company as she watched Precious, would they be the ideal spectators Precious might choose? Would they laugh at what Precious thinks is funny? Or would they all sit silent, still and silent, brooding, hiding from start to finish? When the house lights come on and they unstuff themselves from seats way too small for large bodies, will they chatter with one another or avoid each other, these dozens and dozens of dark, grossly overweight girls? Would each one feel trapped by look-alike images of herself, replicated and outed by a parade of bodies indistinguishable from hers, she thinks, in the mean eyes of others, not her size, not her color? Would the necessity of negotiating aisles filled with bodies stunningly similar, but each absolutely not you, Precious, provoke the same sense of familiarity, unfairness, the claustrophobic terror of watching yourself on the screen? In my movie, imagining a real Precious in attendance at the film depicting her life, I seat myself next to her. Would she notice me? Be curious about my life? Does she too hear the young white woman I recall from the multiplex sobbing behind us? Or is Precious too busy holding on to herself and letting go of herself as image succeeds image to paint a story in thin air before her eyes? Her story, her, and not. She's not a shadow gliding across a screen. She's massively here, sitting beside me in the dark. I sneak looks at her while I follow the story of Precious unfolding in Magnavision. As big a girl as she is, does Precious really believe she can steal a whole bucket of fried chicken and outrun her pursuers? Maybe snatch a wing, darling, or a drumstick, a petty crime nobody would hardly bother chasing you round the block about. Who couldn't catch you, Precious, if they seriously wanted to catch you? Your slow, ponderous body out of breath when you casually stroll the hood. How far you think you get haul-assing with a hot bucket of chicken tucked under one heavy arm? And Precious, as huge, black, ugly, greasy, and useless as you often see yourself and believe others see you? What's up with the white chick in your mirror on the wall? How come the movie gets her and you mixed up? You don't even think she's cute, do you? Plenty of fine colored women you dream about becoming before you dream you're her, right? Why does the film think you're dying to be her? Her skinny, pale face, your long-standing enemy. Don't you scorn the airhead blonde foolishness displayed by girls who look like her in soaps, movies, sitcoms, ads? Don't you hate her contempt, the superiority she assumes addressing you over counters of department stores, ignoring you as she sashays past on downtown sidewalks? Why would a movie make believe you would give that kind of chick a second thought, let alone like her, want to be her, or be attracted to those light, bright, think they cute boys? Nice work if you can get it, maybe, but you don't bother with those knuckleheads, do you, precious? You've seen enough arrogance, heard enough snickers. Who gives a crap about those punks anyway? You know better than to believe a word they say. You know their light skin don't make them no whiter than you. When you rage, precious, boiling angry, thrashing in the trap of your life, do you ever attempt to figure out who's responsible? Do you blame anyone besides yourself, beside your merciless daddy's dark hungers and greed, your mean mama's pitifully hopeless confusion? Do you ever blame terrorists, white people, the president, God? Precious in the movie blames her dreams, punishes those diva hip-hop star Hollywood, Bollywood fantasies, busts them up, demolishes her dreams cruelly with falling skies, ceilings crashing down on her own head. And you, my actual precious, are you still waiting for a big-time agent's phone call, a living large contract to play your sleepwalking self on reality TV? Please, later for the old daydreamy precious in Precious. You can do better, girl. I'm guilty as the movie, putting thoughts in your head, precious, while I pretend to watch you watching the movie of your life. My guesses about what you're thinking are probably wrong, even if a tiny bit right. You are the one, the only one, who should speak for you. Though another of my guesses is that, like me, precious, you make your way through the enigma of being alive by guessing. Scary, lonely guesswork. Are guesses all we can depend upon, especially when what feels crucially important inside us seems not to matter one bit in a world outside that goes on about its business, doing what it does, rolling just like the movie Precious rolls across the screen, and you, precious, can't stop it. The world never stops. The movie won't pause and ask, "Hey, precious, am I getting it right?" Next, what we do in the street. They say a space once occupied by a limb before the arm or leg was amputated can experience phantom twinges of the lost limb. Nothing hurts more, they say, than when a person feels the painful presence of that absence. After the funeral, with the preacher and all the mourners filing behind, the 8 of us exit the church. 8 men and women carrying Precious' coffin. 2 more than customary, and we would have been 10, but for the fact 10 too many to fit. 8 partly because everyone's grief and love for Precious overflowing, and the more of us who could plant a shoulder under the coffin, wrap a fist in one of its solid brass handles, the fewer of us left to stand alone, walk alone, empty-handed, heart full, mind full of an unbearable burden, and not a thing to do about it, not even share the busybody job of pallbearing Precious on her last trip through the neighborhood. No comfort, nothing for people in the crowd except a moment to bow their heads, weep, or turn to stone when the coffin passes, helpless witnesses one more time, squeezed in a vast throng, packing the square, lining streets, avenues, alleys through which the cortege supposed to wind. How long to get to every scheduled station, past each individual mourner, each cluster and knot of spectators who gathered with a faint hope the coffin would reach the spot they occupy before the authorities intervened. 8 of us, partly because it was a mercy to give as many of us as possible something to do with our hands, our feet, our rage. Thus, 8 of us, black clothes, black shine shoes, black gloves, 8 pallbearers instead of 6, partly because the zigzag progress through our neighborhood and the city proper would cover miles, consume hours, a lifetime, perhaps. So a good idea on a scorching day to include 2 extra pairs of shoulders, hands, feet, so every now and then one of us, or better, a pair at a time, when totally exhausted, could slack off a minute, catch a breath, and not exactly be missed, nor set the litter lurching. Not one dip or sigh acceptable today. No breaks in the measured cadence of our march, our solemnity, our irresistible slow-motion plunge forward through the streets. Easy, easy, take her easy, people. 8 also, it should go without saying, since who would want to say this part aloud? Precious, quite large. A big, big girl. Not just heavy set, but heavy, big and heavy. A load, you might as well go on and say, if you got to go there. A load for 6, 8, 10, 100 of us, even when just the memory of her inside the brass fixtured, ivory inlaid, ebony coffin. The dust and ashes of Precious, a load. Even her absence, a load. Even nothing inside the coffin. Nothing except information inside, reminding everybody of the miseries and cruelties of her life. Information that weighs nothing, they say, because information more abstract than angels. Those dozens, millions, tons and tons of angels, they say, who fit on the tip of a pin. Information lighter than a soul's supposed to be. Immaterial as the idea of Precious, laying up there in a vacant box. But let me tell you, from the point of view of one of 8 strong brown sisters and brothers toting her remains, the child's coffin heavy. My knees about to buckle first step I took, and I would have wiped out next step if something didn't whisper to me, whisper to the others, slide, glide. Yes, sliding or gliding because stepping would have shivered my shins, busted my back, sliding or gliding, the only way to get that solid lead coffin through the streets, up and down hills, round corners, squeezed through skinny alleys, following the intricate map every one of us had printed inside our heads. Not stepping or striding, but a sort of glide, slide, feet barely touching the pavement, like you move dancing salsa the proper way. A Dominican buddy had tried to teach me once, and I never caught on. Too much freelance and jitterbug in me back then, but no choice now. Learn instantly with the others or be crushed. Once we had Precious kind of hoisted up in the air, it was partly a matter of grabbing her, holding on tight before Precious floats away, and partly bracing, getting ready for her unbearable weight when it starts to coming back down, slipping ourselves up under it, slipping rope-a-dope out its way, flying her again when Precious ready to fly. We glide, slide, eyes fixed on the person's black back in front, or peek at white sky above the lid's dark, scrolled edge. No salsa dancer's smile, closer to a grimace if you were caught by our faces coming straight at you. Features stiffened to an impenetrable mask. We glide right, glide left, no wobble side to side, though each bearer's muscles experience every minute shift, each pinch and danger, every tilt and slant. Imperceptible unless you're under it. Motion invisible to everybody watching. They see Precious ride by straight as an arrow, though Precious leaning on us, silently rocking back and forth inside the box.